So that was a fun game, huh? Let's talk all about the Blue Jackets' come-from-behind win, that goal by Nick Blankenburg, and what they have got to do to make it 3 in a row when the Penguins come to town on Saturday. That's all coming up today on Locked on Blue Jackets.
Locked on Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked on Blue Jackets, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to bring you news, stories, trials, tribulations, excitement, in this case, about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every day. Locked on Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and also over on YouTube. So if you haven't hit subscribe over there, then feel free to do so because it helps me out, it helps you out. Everybody wins when you subscribe to Locked on Blue Jackets on YouTube. I also want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. And where this podcast is going to start is, man, I didn't think that they were going to pull that one out. So I actually only watched until the 3-1 goal live, and then I had to leave. So I caught the rest of it on the radio at a later date. And oh man, they sure did make it exciting, didn't they? Started out not the best in the world. A big 2-0 at the end of the first period, if I believe correctly. And it got a little bit better and then got a little bit worse. Tanner Jeannot scores to make it 1-0 literally 3 minutes in. The first two Preds goals were super weird. I feel like they both could have had a goalie interference call. Clearly they saw something different that I didn't, but like the first goal especially, I felt like they pushed Elvis into the net. Ryan Johansson scores to make it 2-0. Again, I feel like that was a pretty decent attempt at goalie interference that maybe could have been challenged. I know Toronto called up about both of them, but the refs, I guess, didn't. I don't know. We don't know what the refs thought. I suspect not a lot because, hey, officiating, am I right? But regardless, it's 2-0. Almost 3-0, but the 2-on-1 goal, Roman Josi scores offside. That gets overturned. Stick taps to Dan Singleton, the Columbus Blue Jackets video coach. And I feel like for the first time in 100 years, the Blue Jackets have had an offside goal in their favor. Because I feel like there was like 6 goals or something that were overturned on them last year, including like I think one in every single game in a 4-game stretch. So really nice to see some of that hockey luck come the other way. And then the Blue Jackets finally open the scoring. Jake Bean, first of the year. It's not listed as a power play goal on the NHL app, but I think technically it was. There was a second left in the power play, and so I am calling that a power play goal. Really good to see Jake Bean get one. I think I've been fairly critical of Bean on this podcast the past couple episodes, but he kind of redeemed himself there with that goal. Assists to Johnson and Chinikov, and then Jakub Trenin scores to make it 3-1, and I'm like, okay, fine, this is how this game is going to go. I think Ann Kimmel predicted a 4-1 Preds win, and I'm super glad that wasn't the case, but I got to 3-1, I thought, oh, maybe she's going to be right here. Luckily, Johnny Gaudreau respects me and all of you, scores with literally 38 seconds into the third period, scores on a breakaway. That pass from Nick Blankenburg, phenomenal. He's my player of the game. I know I've been banging on about Nick Blankenburg for literally forever. He has to stay in the lineup at this point. These 2 games have been phenomenal. He's been their best defenseman far and away. I think, they need to get Adam Boquist back in, but Nick Blankenburg has got to stay. We're going to talk about Nick Blankenburg in a little bit. Johnny Gaudreau, 3rd goal of the season. Goals in back-to-back games, I believe. That's his 5th point in 5 games. Justin Danforth scores his 2nd. Igor Chinikov having a pretty good night. 2 assists Andrew Peeke gets his first point of the year. That's another really nice little breakaway pass. Well, it wasn't even like a full breakaway. Danforth just decided he was going to dipsy doodle around a defenseman, makes it 3-3. At this point, I'm like, man, if we have to win every game by going to overtime, like, I'm going to be mad about it. But if that's what they have to do, then so be it. But fortunately, Nick Blankenburg exists, and he's on our team. And there is a minute and 18 seconds left or something. He scores to put it up 4-3. First goal of the season, just a really phenomenal shot. Assists to Voracek and Roslovic. Just, this kid is good, man. And you know that if he was 6'1" or 6'2", he would be on a team already. But because he's 5'9", the Blue Jackets get to profit from this kid. He's just, I don't know, every time he's on the ice, I'm like, this kid's going to do something fun and cool and special. Johnny Gaudreau finishes off with the empty netter. His 4th goal in 5 games, 6th point in 5 games. This is what we got Johnny Gaudreau for. He's making a difference. Yeah, it's an empty net goal, but hey, they don't ask, like I said yesterday, they don't ask how, they ask how many. He's on 4 goals in 5 games, and you love to see it. In a minute, we're going to talk about the good in that game. Again, I felt like it was kind of a mixed bag. There was some good, there was some bad. So we'll talk all about all of that in just a minute. But first, I've got to tell you all about BetOnline, because it's where the game starts, is the thing. It's your number one source for football betting, and the basketball season started a couple of days ago. So if you want to bet on the Cleveland Cavaliers, for example, then you can do that at betonline.net. You can find latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every game. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sports wagering information, with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. So if, for example, you want to bet on Johnny Gaudreau, I don't know, winning the Hart Trophy, or the Rocket Richard, or the Ted Lindsay, or hell, give him the Norris at this point, then you can do that at BetOnline. That is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, golf, the NFL, the baseball is on there, NHL, any sport you can think of. So head to the website today on your laptop or mobile device to learn more. That is betonline.net, because BetOnline is where the game starts. So let's talk about the good in that game. Good thing number 1, they scored a power play goal. Incredible. I didn't know that they had it in them. I genuinely worry that we were just going to go this entire season without scoring a power play. It does worry me a little bit that it's not showing up as a power play goal on the NHL app, so maybe they've taken it away from them, but it counts in my heart. Really good to see Jake Bean get a goal as well. I still personally would maybe take him out of the lineup for a couple of games to get Adam Boquist back in, but we'll see what comes from that, because I don't know. I feel like you've got to get Adam Boquist back in. He can't sit all season. And who else do you take out of this lineup? Like maybe Andrew Peeke, but I don't feel like you get the same effect as taking Andrew Peeke out as if you take Jake Bean out, frankly. Although I do think that Adam Peeke had a rough game. In terms of who was on the ice for various goals, I feel like, let's see. In terms of defense, Erica Branson was a -2. Andrew Peeke was actually a +2. So shout out to Andrew Peeke for being better than I thought he was going to be. The defense is still a little shaky. They only allowed 26 shots on goal. I got my shots on goal mixed up. This was kind of a questionable start. They had a rough start. I think Elvis still needs to be better. I think he's improving, but I think he definitely needs to be better. 3 goals on 26 shots isn't amazing. It's not terrible. It's not great. I think he knows that he needs to be better. Although I like in his defense, and I've talked about it a little bit. Those first 2 goals, I really do think could have gone either way with goalie interference. So if you consider that like 1 legitimate goal was scored on him, like that's pretty good. Blue Jackets outshot them by I think 16. They outshot them 42-26, which is again pretty impressive considering who the Blue Jackets are as people. And the Blue Jackets don't like to do shots on goal. They like to do stick crime. They had 3 power plays. It still says that none of them scored on a power play, but I'm disputing this. I'm going to send an email to the NHL. So good to see the power play get a little bit better. Something they need to work on. Maybe take less penalties. However, the penalty kill went 0 for 5, or 5 for 5, I guess, depending on which way you look at it. Which probably means that the Blue Jackets have climbed a couple of places in terms of their special teams. They are currently, there's 4 teams still sitting at 100% on the penalty kill, which is pretty neat. Blue Jackets currently 10th in the league in the penalty kill, at 86.7. So if they can keep doing that, then maybe we don't need the power play. That's a lie. We need the power play to start doing things. Because otherwise, what are we going to do when they keep taking penalties? Overall, I thought it was a pretty good game. The youth really kind of showed up and did well. My Twitter poll on Kent Johnson did not come to fruition, but again, I feel like this kid is right there. He had a primary assist on Jake Bean's goal. He was on the ice for for Nick Blankenburg's goal, and I feel like he was on the ice for Johnny Gaudreau's goal as well, but I might be misremembering that. So, he's doing all the right things. Is he getting on the score sheet? Not as much as I think they would like him to, but again, I still feel like it's coming. He's getting closer and closer. And he looks good. And I think if they keep pushing him, keep playing him, the goals will come. In terms of ice time, he had again, only 11 minutes of ice time, but that's more than Cole Sillinger had. That's more than Olivier had. That's more than, everyone else had more. But in a minute, we're going to talk a little bit more about Kent Johnson. We're also going to talk a little bit more about Cole Sillinger. So that is coming up next on Locked On Blue Jackets. So we need to talk about the things that weren't as good. I think for the first time this season, the Blue Jackets got beaten on faceoffs, which is unexpected. They had kind of an uncharacteristically rough night in the dart. Sean Crowley was at 44%. Cole Sillinger was at 44%. Roslovic was at 35%. And Boone Jenner, the only one keeping them above 50, had 56%. Last I checked, he was leading the league in faceoffs, which, again, is pretty incredible considering. I know it's very much still a short season. They're 5 games in. Oh, he's second in the league now. Jamie Bender's overtaken him, but that's fine. Boone Jenner, 71% in faceoffs, which is pretty great. But as a whole, the team was pretty poor, and I think that's something that needs to get better. I think they need to get better at not allowing the team to just kind of let people walk where they want. I feel like a lot of the goals that have been scored on Elvis this season, and Tarasov as well, the players have just kind of wandered straight in and done whatever they wanted. And that's why, like 2 out of the 3 goals tonight were scored from about 6 inches away from the crease. So you need to get better at that. That's something that they brought Eric Branson in for. I thought Eric Branson was fine tonight. Not great, but fine. I thought he was better against the Canucks. So we'll see how he continues to play. I think this might be the Eric Branson that we're going to see more often than not, but I don't know. I think his game just doesn't appeal to me, is the thing. I think, and I've talked about this before, I would rather have a bunch of small mobile defensemen than a group of like stay-at-home defensemen. But if he's going to be a stay-at-home defenseman, I would like him to stay at home a little bit more. Someone needs to stay and clear the crease, essentially. He's a gigantic human, so that's something I think he could work on a little bit. And Andrew Peake as well, I think, needs to do that and needs to clear the crease. He's another giant human. I do wonder if he will sit next game. I wouldn't sit him, but I think that if they want to get Boquist back in, I think it makes sense to sit Peake over Bean just because of handedness. Overall, I think the defense, like I said, the defense was fine. Penalty kill, good. Power play, still kind of haunted. I do think that they're probably not going to count that power play goal. I'm mad about it, but it is what it is. But yeah, for the most part, I think it's first periods they need to work on. They need to work on the power play. They need to work on face-offs. Like, those are the big three things that I think I'm going to be looking at when they face Pittsburgh on Saturday. That's going to be a real test, I think, is how they do against Pittsburgh. They've got some confidence. They've got some momentum. They've beaten a Canucks team that is underperforming. They've beaten a pretty middle of the road Nashville Predators team. The Pens, I believe, are doing pretty well this season. They've got some big guns. Crosby is healthy. Malkin is healthy. Like, that could be a really good test for this Blue Jackets team. And so, am I going to be looking for them to get tighter defensively? Yes. Am I going to look at them to maybe score a couple more goals? Yes. But what I'm going to be looking at in this game is the power play. Hopefully, get the power play going, better at face-offs, and allowing less players to just kind of wander straight through the crease, because I think that's not necessarily a defense-only issue, but it is something that definitely needs to improve. And that's kind of all it's not all I've got for you today. We're going to do Cannonball of the Game, and this is a really tough one. I was thinking about this on my drive home from the coffee shop that I was working at today. So many great goals. The Jake Bean goal, power play goal, first of the season, first of the game, got them on the board. That Gaudreau breakaway goal, incredible. The Danforth goal was really sweet. Blankenburg's first goal of the season. Like, all four of those goals could be the Cannonball of the Game. And I think I'm going to give it. I feel like you know who I'm going to give it to. I'm going to give it to Nick Blankenburg. Game-winning goal, first game of the season. Am I grading on a little bit of a curve? Maybe, because he had such a monster game last night and Tuesday night, maybe. But this is my podcast, and that's my opinion, and I can do what I want, and what I want is to give it to Nick Blankenburg, so he gets his first cannonball of the game in Game 5 of the season. And honestly, I think we're going to see quite a few more of those as the season goes on. So he's my choice for cannonball of the game. I really did go between him and Jake Bean for that opening goal. I think the thing that's pipped it for me is that they're not counting it as a power play goal. But still, shout out to Bean for scoring his first of the season and for opening the scoring and maybe sparking that comeback. The Blue Jackets were down 2-0. He made it 2-1. The Preds made it 3-1 a little bit later, but I think Jake Bean definitely sparked something. So I really could have given it to him as well. But I'm giving it to Nick Blankenburg for the game-winning goal, I think. And, you can argue with me if you want, but I think that's a pretty good reason to give someone Cannonball of the Game. And it was a pretty sweet shot as well. That pass from Voracek was phenomenal. I didn't even mention the pass from Voracek, but it was there. It was incredible. Just a perfect Voracek-like pass, and Nick Blankenburg got lucky enough to be on the other end of it. And so that, I think, is all I've got for you today. Tomorrow, we're going to do a special Saturday episode of Locked on Blue Jackets. We're going to be talking to Hunter Hodes of Locked on Penguins. Penguins are in town on Saturday, so let's get the inside scoop on how their offseason was, what injury curses the Penguins have at the minute, because they are as cursed as the Blue Jackets, if not more, with injuries, I feel like. So we're going to see who's in the lineup, who's out of the lineup, and make some fun predictions. So always fun chatting to Hunter, even though he's a Penguins fan. We don't let it bother us. But that's going to be tomorrow's episode, Saturday. I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Twitter at LO_Blue Jackets. Nope, that's the podcast Twitter, LO_Blue Jackets. I haven't done that in a while. You can find me at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTER. Podcast Twitter is where I've just said, LO_Blue Jackets. If you have comments, questions, criticisms, you can email me at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. Thank you once again for making this your first listen of the day every day, or your first watch of the day, either or. I am glad that you're here enjoying this kind of up and down crazy season with me. The fun is only just beginning, so hopefully you guys are going to stick out for the rest of the season. I'm super excited. Hopefully you guys are. Remember to like and subscribe over on YouTube if you haven't. I appreciate it. Locked on Blue Jackets is free and available on YouTube. You're never going to have to get behind a paywall for a Locked on product, and we are on every podcasting app. Apple, Spotify, Podbean, Stitcher, Odyssey, anywhere you can imagine, you can find Locked On Blue Jackets. So go check us out over there if you haven't. Subscribe on YouTube, and until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.